welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are strapping in for a journey that takes us far beyond the typical self-help routine. We're moving instead into the enduring ancient wisdom of the Toltec tradition. Our guide is the profound modern articulation of that wisdom by Don Miguel Ruiz.
And this is truly, it's a systems upgrade for your mind. It's far more than just philosophy. It's an entire integrated system of self-mastery and really personal sovereignty. Our mission today is to unpack the very core of this knowledge.
Okay.
To understand in, excruciating detail how the structures of modern domesticated life trap us in constant emotional suffering.
And how the four agreements aren't just inspirational slogans, right?
Exactly. They are a precise path to escape that internalized nightmare and reclaim the unconditional joy and freedom that is, our true original nature.
We are drawing on an extensive exploration of Ruiz's work, treating this ancestral knowledge not as some ancient curiosity, but as an immediate practical user manual for achieving personal freedom here and now. And to really appreciate the power of the solution, we have to deeply, relentlessly explore the roots of this unhappiness, what the Toltecs call the old agreements.
And that deep dive into the problem is so crucial because what Ruiz highlights is a core, counterintuitive premise. Our biggest, most persistent enemy is not external. It's not the bad boss, the difficult partner, or the political climate. It's the entire belief system we inherited.
The mental framework.
The mental framework that was imposed upon us through consensus, which we then internalize and use to judge ourselves mercilessly. It's a self-sustaining cycle of suffering.
I find the historical context fascinating. The critique notes that the Toltec masters initially kept this knowledge secret. So why reveal such powerful knowledge now?
Well, the source explains that the masters were extremely judicious about who learned the practices. Historically, they knew the destructive potential of this knowledge if it fell into the wrong hands.
Right. It had to be safeguarded.
It had to be safeguarded from those who were unworthy, those who would misuse such personal power for entirely selfish ends or, manipulation. The European invasion forced them to take the wisdom entirely underground.
So this reintroduction via Ruiz is a big deal.
It's a huge deal. It comes from a preserved lineage, and it's an acknowledgement that collective suffering has reached a critical point where this wisdom, these tools for mental freedom, is desperately needed by everyone. It's almost like a rescue effort.
Okay, let's unpack this legacy, starting with who the Toltec actually were. When you hear the word Toltec, I think a lot of people think of Aztec or Mayan ruins, but this group seems to have been defined less by governance and more by intellectual and spiritual pursuit.
That's absolutely right. The Toltec were described not primarily as a political empire, but as a community of scientists and artists, or maybe more accurately, seekers, who gathered in southern Mexico.
Seekers, I like that.
Yeah. Their entire purpose was dedicated to exploring, preserving, and protecting ancient spiritual knowledge, seeking the truth about the essential nature of the universe and humanity.
So this was a knowledge base passed down through generations.
Through students and masters, often convening in specific locations within their cities, like pyramids, to share and practice these esoteric traditions.
So their major concern wasn't ruling, but rather understanding reality. And as you mentioned, the European invasion forced a major strategic shift for them.
It was a pivotal moment. The invasion demonstrated the vulnerability of their way of life. When some apprentices, referred to in the source as unworthy, began to misuse their insights and influence, the masters saw the danger of corruption.
So they took it underground.
To prevent the exploitation of this power for personal gain or malice, they made the solemn decision to hide the ancestral knowledge. Don Miguel Ruiz's work represents the successful continuity of this lineage.
And it offers a framework that seems to be about embracing the spirit, promoting happiness and unconditional love as tangible, attainable ways of living.
Exactly. Available to everyone, not just a select few.
That recovery project really grounds the work. Now let's move to the central mechanism that defines our daily experience. The concept of dreaming.
Right.
The Toltec idea moves dreaming out of the bedroom and into constant waking reality.
Correct. According to these teachings, the primary function of the mind is not calculation or memory.
It's to dream.
It is to dream constantly. Your mind is an engine of perception that generates reality every hour of every day, whether your eyes are closed or wide open. It is essentially our continuous state of existence. We are always processing, always narrating.
And this leads us directly to the massive, inescapable structure they call the outside dream.
The outside dream is the shared consensus reality. It existed before you were born, and you were simply installed into it. Think of it as the collective hallucination, the master program that contains all the societal operating code.
All the rules, the laws.
Yeah, all the rules, the laws, the belief systems, the cultural norms, religions, educational curricula, government structures, holidays, and every societal expectation imaginable. We are born into this colossal, pre-established framework.
But that framework isn't uniform, though.
Yeah.
The source notes the layers within the dream.
Yes. It's not one monolithic thing. It's fractal. The outside dream is an accumulation of countless smaller personal dreams.
Individual narratives.
Individual narratives that combine to create the shared reality. You have the immediate, deeply influential family stream, the community dream that governs your neighborhood, the city's dream, the country's dream based on national myths, and ultimately, the entire humanity stream.
So every interaction we have, every standard of success, every invisible societal expectation flows within one of these layered dreams.
Exactly. And the very first step toward freedom is just recognizing that this dream was manufactured and its reality was imposed upon you without your consent.
Which brings us to Section 2, the mechanics of the trap itself. If we are born able to dream freely, how does society manage to overwrite our original programming and enforce its nightmare? This is the process of domestication.
Domestication is the engine that installs the outside dream into our personal reality. It begins with the relentless capture of our attention by adults, parents, teachers, religious leaders.
And attention is the key.
Attention, the source says, is the power we use to focus and distinguish things we wish to understand. Adults persistently bombard our minds with information, constantly drilling rules, regulations, expectations, and moral codes into our hearts until we learn them by heart.
So it's not just teaching skills. It's an incessant determination of what is proper, what's right or wrong, good or bad, and what behavior is acceptable or unacceptable.
Precisely. And the key to its success is the vulnerability of the child. As children, we were inherently prone to agree. We didn't possess the knowledge, the critical frameworks, or, the emotional strength to defend opposing views.
We didn't choose our religion, our moral framework, or even the name we answer to.
No, we accepted everything handed over to us, and in that process of agreement, we unwittingly surrendered our initial freedom.
I see the power of that word, agreement. The source notes that the moment we unconditionally agree and believe in something, that's when faith, the foundation of our entire internal belief system, is developed.
That's the psychological cornerstone of domestication, and that agreement is cemented through the most primal system of control. Reward and punishment.
We are trained using fear.
We learn to fear punishment for disobeying the established rules, but equally powerfully, we learn to fear not receiving the reward, the approval, the attention, the validation for obeying.
And that need for reward and attention becomes a driving force that follows us into adulthood. We start competing for notice.
It becomes a highly competitive survival mechanism. In childhood, we compete for parental or teacher attention. In adulthood, this need for recognition and acceptance forces us to create a sophisticated mask, a persona to be seen as acceptable and desirable.
We pretend to be someone we are not.
And in that performance, we lose access to our true, authentic nature. The fear of rejection becomes paralyzing because our entire constructed identity is based on the success of this performance.
But what if someone pushes back on that? What if they say, I am who I am because I chose my values later in life?
That's a great question, and Ruiz's philosophy acknowledges that evolution. But the underlying mechanics remain. Our original belief system, forged during that highly influential period of domestication, becomes our default personal truth.
So even if we consciously challenge it,
this system, even if we consciously challenge parts of it, still governs our knee-jerk mental reactions, our unconscious judgments, and often runs contrary to our innermost authentic nature. Once the system is fully internalized, the outside world no longer needs to enforce it.
we become our own jailers.
Exactly. We become our own jailers, and that leads us to the internal tyranny. The judge and the victim.
Okay, break that down.
Within the mind, we develop two distinct warring parts that constantly perpetuate the suffering cycle. The judge is the part that absorbed all those external rules and expectations. It's the ruler, the evaluator, the prosecutor of everything we and others do.
And the victim.
The victim is the part that passively receives all of the judge's evaluations, enduring the constant guilt, shame, blame, and penalty.
And the sources emphasize where the true injustice lies in that dynamic.
Yes. True justice, according to nature, means paying once for a mistake. You suffer the consequence, you learn, and you move on. But human injustice, perpetuated by the judge, means paying countless times for the very same mistake.
Every time the mistake is recalled or the judge brings up the memory.
We punish ourselves repeatedly. We are the only creatures, Ruiz emphasizes, that pay numerous times for one error, making memory itself a mechanism of torture.
So the suffering isn't tied to the original event anymore. It's tied entirely to the memory and the self-judgment applied by the judge.
Exactly. And this internal framework makes us fear anything that might contradict our foundational agreements. If you start to question the beliefs that define your life, the judge brings swift and immediate insecurity, often disguised as anxiety or panic.
And this internalized cycle of fear and self-judgment is the engine that generates our emotional reality, which the Toltec masters bluntly describe as life in hell.
It sounds extreme, but when you look at the evidence the source provides, the collective anxiety, emotional dramas, chronic injustice, violence, addiction, and hatred, it mirrors the traditional religious description of hell.
A state of endless pain, fear, and punishment existing right here on Earth.
We have absolutely normalized suffering. The world becomes intensely difficult to navigate due to the constant fear that governs it. And here's the most heartbreaking irony.
What's that?
The source suggests the biggest fear humans face isn't failure or even death, but the fear of being truly alive.
Afraid to be ourselves.
We are afraid to fully express ourselves, to take risks and show our authentic character, opting instead for the perceived, exhausting comfort of continuously attempting to please other people, living within their expectations.
And that pursuit of external validation forces us to build the cage known as the perfect image.
The perfect image is the idealized version of ourselves, the one acceptable to the community, the one we learn to be during domestication. But the truth is, this image isn't real.
It's impossible.
Nothing in life is static or perfect. Since we can never live up to this impossible ideal, the resulting self-rejection becomes crippling. We hide our true selves, we wear those social masks, and we cannot forgive ourselves for not being what the judge insists we are meant to be.
And that internal self-abuse dictates our external tolerance for abuse.
That's a key diagnostic point in this philosophy. The amount of abuse you tolerate from others is exactly equivalent to the amount of abuse you inflict upon yourself via the judge and victim.
It's a direct barometer.
It's a direct barometer of your own self-worth and self-acceptance. If we don't love and accept our authentic, imperfect selves, we cannot receive true love and acceptance externally, and even if we did, we wouldn't be able to trust it.
So the necessary first step for freedom is dropping that exhausting, impossible, perfect image.
And embracing your entire imperfect reality.
The good news is that this deeply entrenched, fear-based belief system, this internal hell, can be overturned. The 4 agreements are the tools of that revolution. Let's start with Agreement 1, which Ruiz emphasizes is the most powerful and, ironically, the most difficult. Be impeccable with your word.
This agreement is the key to escaping the nightmare, and is considered the most significant. It is the hardest to fulfill precisely because we have a deeply ingrained habitual misuse of this power.
And when Ruiz refers to this, he is defining impeccable as without sin, which we need to understand that in the Toltec sense.
Yes, we have to go beyond the typical religious definition.
Okay, so let's define that sin.
In the Toltec tradition, sin is anything you do that goes against yourself, something that creates conflict or internal fracture, ultimately resulting in self-rejection.
So impeccability literally means having no sin, which means having no conflict with yourself.
Exactly. And self-rejection is thus the major sin.
Because it's an act of destruction.
Absolutely. It dismantles your well-being. Being impeccable means being fully responsible for your actions and behavior without the reflexive need to condemn, blame, or punish yourself for mistakes. It promotes life and growth.
So what makes the word itself such a powerful force?
The word, in this context, is a gift from the divine, an incredible instrument. It's pure magic. It is the power that allows us to communicate, to express our thoughts and feelings, and critically, to create different life circumstances.
So your word reflects everything about you. It's energy.
It is energy. When you direct your words toward truth, toward love, toward creation, that is the proper way to use your energy. When you love yourself and reflect that love through impeccable interactions, your selfless actions create a similar positive reaction in the external world.
Okay, so if the word is pure magic, then its misuse must be extremely destructive.
That's where the chaos begins. We misuse the word constantly, not just by lying to others, but fundamentally by lying to ourselves. We use words to blame, to curse, to destroy, and to express hate, anger, resentment, and jealousy.
And this expenditure of energy against ourselves and others is what keeps the cycle of hell spinning.
Right. And the worst misuse, the most destructive form of black magic, is gossip. We need to go deeper into that analogy of the computer virus.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack that.
Gossip is described as the worst kind of wicked black magic because it's a systematic, learned mechanism for implanting poison. We learn to gossip in childhood by agreement, simply by witnessing adults doing it constantly.
And we internalize the belief that it is a normal, even necessary means of communication.
Yes, and we often feel a fleeting sense of relief or superiority when we manage to pull others down to our own level of misery.
So how does it function as a virus in the mind?
The comparison is terrifyingly accurate. When you gossip, you are inserting malicious, often unsubstantiated information into someone else's mind. It's a piece of corrupt code designed to harm the system.
And this corrupt information clogs communication channels.
Makes people think less clearly, and spreads hatred purely based on personal opinions and ego-driven judgments. And remember, these opinions are not truth. They stem only from the speaker's own fears and beliefs, their own corrupted internal dream.
So by gossiping, we breed hatred and validate our personal, deeply flawed views, essentially infecting the collective consciousness.
That's it, exactly.
But wait, what if someone genuinely needs to share a justified critique or warning about another person's behavior? How do we differentiate between necessary communication and gossip?
That's where the definition of impeccability is key. Necessary communication focuses on verifiable facts and addresses a problem or concern directly, often to protect oneself or others.
And it's driven by truth or love.
Crucially, yes, it is driven by truth or love. Gossip, on the other hand, is driven by fear, judgment, or the malicious intent to diminish someone else's reputation or validate the speaker's superior feeling.
So if your word is impeccable, you can deliver a difficult truth without the poison.
Yes. Without the poison of personal judgment or ego attachment, you focus on the behavior, not the person's intrinsic worth.
So if you manage to live by this agreement, you achieve immunity from that verbal virus.
Absolutely. When you are impeccable, your mind stops being fertile ground for negative spells, whether they originate from others or, more importantly, from your own judge. It doesn't collect seeds of black magic.
It becomes fertile only for seeds that stem from love and truth.
This is the only way to defeat the harmful mental agreements, by planting a truth that holds the power to break those agreements of pain and sorrow. The sincerity of your words reflects the love you have for yourself and is the ultimate cleanser for emotional poison.
That concept of emotional immunity flows beautifully into agreement too. Don't take anything personally.
This agreement is all about dismantling the monumental ego structure that we build around ourselves, which the philosophy terms the highest form of selfishness.
Selfishness is an interesting word choice here. Why is taking things personally the highest form of selfishness?
Because personal importance makes the faulty, exhausting assumption that every single thing that happens in the universe, whether someone praises you, ignores you, or insults you, is somehow primarily about you.
You place yourself at the center of everyone else's reality.
Which is an impossible, arrogant burden to carry. You end up feeling responsible for a whole lot of things you have no control over. The reality check here is liberating. Whatever people say or do, even if they are intentionally cruel, it has nothing to do with you.
It is entirely about them.
It is entirely about them, their own personal dream, their established agreements, and their own current emotional state.
We forget that everyone is living in their own entirely unique internal movie, and that movie is a constant playback of their own fears and judgments.
We do. We try to force ourselves into their narrative or assume they understand ours, but their opinions are derived exclusively from their own established beliefs and domestication. If someone is lashing out, they're projecting their internal pain.
And if you become angry because of an insult,
you're only taking that anger upon yourself, using the other person as an excuse. You are furious because the judge inside you is agreeing with the insult, touching a deep, pre-existing fear.
So this agreement is an ultimate immunity shield. What does it protect us from, specifically?
It protects you from bitterness, rage, and the exhaustion of constant defense. When you stop taking things personally, you avoid the reflexive need to defend your views and your identity.
Which automatically prevents 90% of conflicts over small things.
Right. You stop making a big deal out of other people's emotional output because you realize their words or actions reflect their agreements, not your inherent reality or worth. It frees up enormous emotional energy.
I think we need to link this back to the chaotic state of our internal world, which the Toltec call the metote. How does the metote connect to taking things personally.
The method is the marketplace of voices, the constant, cacophonous internal vision where thousands of conflicting thoughts, feelings, and beliefs talk simultaneously.
The mind is not a unified entity.
Not at all. It's a chaos of internal contradictions. This internal struggle is why people are always unsure of what they want. Parts of their mind wish for one thing, and other parts vehemently oppose it.
So when you take something personally, you're essentially letting an external stimulus feed into your already chaotic internal method.
Yes. You're confirming a fear that one of those thousands of internal voices was already whispering. The external conflict only exacerbates the internal marketplace chaos.
And the only path to bringing order to that confusion is
to become keenly aware of all your limiting agreements. Ruiz suggests that if you choose to suffer, you will instinctively take things personally. People are often addicted to emotional drama and will even help others suffer more to validate their own misery.
But if you choose to love and deliberately abandon fear,
you delight in everything because you love yourself, and the external world's chaos simply cannot penetrate that self-acceptance.
The source also gives us a clear directive regarding trust, which seems counterintuitive in a world focused on transparency. We must prioritize self-trust over expecting honesty from others.
That's essential for emotional safety. People tend to be profoundly dishonest with themselves, often to avoid the judge's punishment. Expecting them to be consistently honest with you is often unrealistic.
So you have to trust yourself.
You must trust yourself and rely on your own discernment to choose whether or not to believe what others tell you. If someone lies, you don't have to get upset because you know they are operating under the influence of their own imperfect, fear-driven agreements. Their lie is their problem, not yours.
And the ultimate protection against emotional heartbreak is ruthless honesty with ourselves.
Yes. If a person's actions don't match their words, and you continue to believe their words over the evidence of their actions, that is your dishonesty with yourself.
And being honest with yourself saves you from a great deal of emotional pain.
Exactly. By accepting others as they are, without taking their imperfections to heart or trying to change them, you gain the freedom to go anywhere with an open heart, no longer afraid of rejection or criticism. You understand that rejection from them is only a reflection of their own dream, not your reality.
Moving on to agreement 3. Don't make assumptions. This agreement seems to be the one that causes the most immediate, unnecessary, and avoidable drama in our daily interactions, especially in close relationships.
It is the foundational root of massive misunderstanding and conflict, and it's fueled by fear. The source is very direct. We make assumptions because we're too scared to clear things up.
We're afraid to ask the challenging question, afraid of the vulnerability, and terrified of the answer.
So we formulate quick guesses, believe them to be 100% correct, and then we defend those guesses as gospel truth, resulting in unnecessary suffering and shattered relationships.
Why does the mind prefer the painful guess over the clarity of a question?
It comes back to the mind's profound need for security. The mind absolutely hates the unknown. It constantly needs to explain, justify, and figure out everything just to feel informed and secure.
So an assumption doesn't even need to be right.
Any answer immediately removes the mental tension caused by ambiguity. This satisfies the judge's demand to be informed, and most critically, it removes the need for true communication, which requires vulnerability and effort.
We are trained to make assumptions quickly and unconsciously because we have agreed that this is an acceptable, easy form of communication.
And we end up ruining relationships just to validate an assumed perspective that was wrong from the start.
The relationship trap is a powerful illustration of this.
It is. We fall into the pattern of assuming that our life partners know exactly what we are thinking, what we want, and that they will automatically do everything we desire simply because they are our partner.
And when they inevitably fail to meet this unspoken, uncommunicated, assumed expectation,
we feel profoundly hurt. We feel betrayed, but the betrayal originated entirely in our own mind. We create our own drama and misery.
But this extends beyond partners, too. We assume others view the world through our own domesticated lens.
Exactly. We project our own set of agreements onto others. This is why we hide our true selves. We assume others will judge or blame us exactly like our own internalized judge judges us.
We end up rejecting ourselves preemptively.
Even before anyone else has a chance to offer rejection. This agreement forces us to look inward. Are we truly being honest about what we want and what we need? Or are we under or overestimating our own abilities because we haven't taken the time to look at ourselves clearly?
The source offers a challenging perspective on love when discussing assumptions. True love doesn't involve forcing change.
It ties into unconditional acceptance. If you genuinely love someone, you accept them without forcing them to conform to your image of who they should be.
If you constantly want them to change.
The Toltec teaching suggests perhaps you don't really love them at all. You love the potential idea of them. People change because they internally want to, not because of external justification or pressure.
So the healthiest approach is to find someone you can fully accept, flaws and all.
And who extends that same courtesy to you?
So what's the simple, obvious solution that we avoid out of fear and laziness?
Ask questions until everything is absolutely clear. Don't assume you know everything about a situation. Be willing to be vulnerable.
You're entitled to ask for what you want.
And others are equally entitled to say yes or no, without resentment on either side. Clear, explicit communication is the only way to avoid the violence and misunderstandings that assumptions breed.
But it's an incredibly hard habit to break.
It is, because we are so used to doing the opposite. But recognizing the significance of this agreement and taking action repeatedly is how you nurture the good seed for new, healthy habits. The practice of communicating clearly is an act of deep personal respect.
Agreement 4, always do your best, is the action principle. It feels like the foundation that makes the previous 3 agreements stick and move from philosophical ideas to lived reality.
It is the operational agreement, the engine of transformation. This agreement provides the energy, the discipline, and the focus needed to transform the other 3 into deep-seated, unconscious habits.
Without action, we're just sitting around waiting.
And we can't change our lives. Great results, both internal and external, come from giving the best of what you have consistently.
But the crucial caveat here is understanding that best is not a fixed measurement. It's variable. We have to be meticulous about defining what your best means moment to moment.
That is the profound psychological nuance of this agreement. Your best effort is constantly changing based on your circumstances. Your capacity in the morning, when you are fully recharged and inspired, is vastly superior to when you're emotionally drained or physically tired at night.
Your best, when you are perfectly healthy, is different from your best when you are sick.
Or injured. Even your best effort when you're feeling happy is different from when you're sad or angry. We must recognize this natural variability and not let changing moods or circumstances stop us from working on these new agreements.
So if you're angry, your best might just be restraining your word.
Exactly. If you are sick, your best might be simply resting.
And this agreement requires a very delicate balance of effort, avoiding overexertion and underperformance.
You must avoid both extremes. If you push yourself too hard and relentlessly try to do more than your current best allows, you waste energy, potentially injure yourself, and you might actually accomplish goals slower because you burn out.
But if you do less than your current best,
that path leads straight to guilt, internal frustrations, and future regrets, which feeds the victim. Doing your best means doing what you can right now in this present moment and accepting that the output will fluctuate.
And when you achieve that non-judgmental balance, the internal tyranny, the judge and the victim, loses its fundamental reason for existence.
Yes. Doing your best eliminates any legitimate reasons to judge, blame, or punish yourself. If you truly know you gave the maximum effort available to you in that moment, what is there to regret?
You are here to experience joy, to love, and to live happily, not just to suffer.
And if you consistently give everything you've got, you will be productive and feel intrinsically good about yourself because you know you didn't settle for anything less than your truth.
This agreement also fundamentally shifts our motivation from external validation and rewards to internal fulfillment.
Ruiz observes that too many people work tirelessly, only for the reward, the paycheck, the weekend, the promotion, forcing themselves to endure their workdays.
They are miserable, hating their life because they're working out of necessity, not love.
They are slaves to the reward structure of the outside dream.
So if you shift to working hard out of love for the process itself, the reward becomes secondary.
You experience true fun in life. You don't feel like you are working because the activity itself, the expression of your effort, makes you happy. You give everything you can because it's what you choose to do, not because you're trying to be nice or seeking acceptance.
While external rewards may still come, your primary goal is the action itself.
This is how you live with no regrets because you are fully engaged and present.
Which brings us to the final existential instruction of the fourth agreement. Living fully is about taking action and embracing the present moment.
Inactivity, like sitting on the couch day after day out of fear of failure or judgment, is refusing to live. It is refusing to express who you really are.
Taking action is the only way.
Taking action is the only way to turn your ideas into reality and gain desired outcomes. You honor your existence, which is proof that life and spirit exist, by doing your best. Leaving the past behind and living fully in the present moment is the ultimate form of thanks or prayer.
You don't need great knowledge or complex philosophical ideas to succeed.
No, your divine nature is manifested through your life and love, moment by moment.
We have the agreements, but what is the Toltec path to actually implementing them and achieving that state of heaven on earth? It involves breaking the old agreements, which sounds like a fundamental internal revolution.
It is described as a warrior's discipline, a life lived with intentional strength and courage. Our deeply ingrained habits are what cause us to suffer, and to break them, we must question every pillar of our belief system.
We must find the courage to realize that many of our foundational beliefs, instilled during childhood, are based entirely on consensus lies and fear, not truth.
Exactly. The warrior fights against what is termed the parasite.
Let's elaborate on this terminology. What is the parasite?
The parasite is the entire fear-based belief system, the judge-victim complex, which governs the mind, controls our energy, and steals our freedom. The parasite only lives off our emotional reactions to our own judgments.
So a warrior's goal is not necessarily to win every internal battle instantly,
but to maintain the discipline to do their best at all times, chipping away at the parasite's power until they regain their freedom and change life into a personal heaven.
a state of love and happiness where we no longer need to hide our true selves.
That's the goal.
The source outlines 3 distinct, highly detailed approaches to transformation, moving from the steady to the radical. Let's look first at the most accessible path, simply adopting the 4 agreements.
This is the path of repetition and patience. You will not break decades of old agreements in a single day. Transformation is achieved through persistent practice.
So every time you consciously choose to be impeccable with your word,
Or choose not to take something personally, you are performing a ritual that strengthens the new habit and weakens the old one. It's a process of gradually replacing old, destructive agreements with new ones that give you personal power and guide you toward a happier life.
permanently ending emotional pain. It's like training a physical muscle.
It takes time and consistency. That's the key.
The second approach is profoundly psychological, ceasing to strengthen the parasite. How do we practically starve this internal enemy?
This requires rigorous self-awareness and learning to control fear-based emotions. Every day, we wake up with a finite amount of physical, emotional, and mental energy. We must not let emotions, especially the negative, fear-driven ones like anger, jealousy, or resentment, drain that energy.
Or we'll have none left to transform our lives or share love with others.
Exactly. Our emotions dictate how we view the world. When you're angry, everything seems wrong and must be corrected. When you're sad, everything makes you want to withdraw.
So we have to identify the fear-based thoughts that trigger this energy drain.
Yes. The source uses a powerful analogy. The mind is like infected skin, covered with emotional wounds contaminated with the poison of sadness, anger, envy, and hatred.
And when someone tries to hurt us, they often trigger one of these old wounds.
And we react based on our thoughts about fairness and injustice. The first step toward a cure is the painful realization that we are infected with the mental illness called fear. This realization that our rational mind starts to fail when fear becomes too serious is the catalyst for change. We must become aware of where our energy is flowing.
And the practical technique to heal these wounds involves forgiveness.
Forgiveness is central to the healing process because it is an act of withdrawing energy from the parasite. We must learn to forgive others out of self-love, to free ourselves from the torment of bitterness.
You are not doing it for them. You are doing it for yourself.
Exactly. You stop letting their actions occupy real estate in your mind. And we must forgive ourselves for the mistakes the judge constantly reminds us of, and even forgive God or life for the inherent injustices we feel.
Real freedom begins when those old emotional wounds no longer hurt.
Even when someone tries to touch them. A warrior acknowledges the internal war and has the discipline and courage to be who they really are, regardless of the parasite's noise.
The third approach is the most difficult, but also the fastest, and it is entirely metaphorical. The commencement of death. This sounds terrifying.
It is a symbolic act, a radical internal cleansing, where the parasite is killed without harming the actual body. It requires facing death as a master or teacher.
How does that work?
Death forces us to live our lives to the fullest because we recognize that we could die at any moment. This presents the starkest possible choice. Continue to suffer because death is inevitable, or use every single second doing what we love and being happy.
Knowing that the time we have is precious and limited.
Right.
How does that specific thought process destroy the parasite?
The parasite, the judge and the victim, operates entirely through projecting fear into the future and regret onto the past. It thrives on controlling a timeline that isn't guaranteed.
And when you sincerely face your own mortality,
You are forced fully into the present moment. The future ceases to be a playground for anxiety, and the past loses its power to wound. The commencement of death destroys the old beliefs and agreements by eliminating their foundation.
if you survive this internal restoration, what is the resulting state?
The greatest gift is the result. You become like a little child again, but with a crucial difference. You are free, but no longer innocent.
You have gained the knowledge and the power to live your life on your own terms.
Fully in the present moment, without the baggage of the past or the fear of the future, you are aware of the traps and you choose sovereignty.
This culminates in the beautiful vision of heaven on earth.
This is a life without internal struggle, where you are free to express who you are without fear of judgment or the exhausting need to defend your existence.
It's a state of complete happiness.
Where you accept imperfections in yourself and others, and you are not afraid of rejection or criticisms because you realize they are merely echoes of other people's dreams.
You're not scared to take risks or explore life because there is truly nothing to lose that is tied to your inherent worth.
When love directs your life, everything becomes marvelous and easy. You perceive love everywhere, even in those who seem angry or sad, because you recognize that their anger is just their own internal pain, not a reflection of you.
Happiness, the Toltec ideal insists, lies entirely in your own hands.
We let our beliefs cloud our judgment, but suffering is only a choice. We can choose to be happy, we can choose to live in heaven, and we are free to share that love and happiness with everyone around us without seeking anything in return.
Wow. This has been a true deep dive into the practical mechanics of personal transformation. To recap the core struggle, domestication through reward and punishment constantly grabs our attention and forces us to agree to a societal nightmare. This internalizes the judge and the victim, leading to a relentless life of self-abuse and fear, a state the Toltecs call the mitoti.
And the solution lies entirely in the power of conscious agreement. The 4 agreements give us the power to break those old fear-based patterns and starve the internal parasite.
So the path requires the conscious choice to be impeccable with your word,
The humility to realize nothing others do is about you.
the courage to ask questions instead of assuming,
And the discipline to always do your best, regardless of how much that best fluctuates.
Life can be marvelous and easy when directed by love, and we don't have to stay stuck in misery. Suffering is truly a choice you make every time you reinforce an old fear-based agreement.
The journey requires strong will and patience. Even if you fail and stumble daily, and you will because you are human, the Toltec knowledge provides a profound realization.
Which is,
What is the revolutionary power of choosing to stand up and start again every single day, focusing only on the effort you can give in the present moment?
knowing that you have the internal power to transform your existence and create heaven in the midst of hell, that consistent, persistent, present action, that is the true and essential meaning of the warrior path.